Well, welcome. It's not the most ideal of days, but it's neat to see everyone here. My name is Brother Christopher. I'm in sort of the director of the training program down below. I'm happy to welcome everyone with your dog. And before the actual animal blessing, what typically we do is give a little demonstration of some of the work that we do in the monastery's training program. Basically, we work with a 2.5-week program in obedience training that involves a lot of skills, teaching the dog to behave both on and off leash. And we also educate the owners to help them understand how to continue the training once the dogs return back home. Now, for many years, we've been doing this. Actually, the training program began in the late 1960s along with our breeding program, and I think most of you probably are aware of how the monastery got involved in dogs, so I won't bore you with that story. But at the same time, I think one of the things that I always, in an occasion like this, love to take advantage of is the opportunity to simply confirm and reinforce in each of your lives the importance the human-dog relationship has and how it can point to something much deeper and much more wondrous and beautiful than we may have ever expected. Actually, I think one of the things that we have discovered here at the monastery working with our dogs is that they're a very important element of our own spirituality and of our own spiritual lives. When you ask why, part of the reason is that dogs are guileless. They're absolutely themselves, which is so different than in our human relationships, isn't it? You know, dogs are absolutely honest. We can trust them. Nevertheless, in view of that, we have the responsibility of training them, of helping them be the companions that we know that they can be. And so hence, there's a certain importance in taking good care of the dog, both in terms of the dog's health, but also in teaching fundamental skills that all dogs need to know in order to be conveniently and happily included in our lives. So what I'm going to simply do is use this dog, Maggie, to show you a little bit of what we do to teach the dog the obedience exercises in a way that allows them to be optimally included in their lives. Okay? Now, you'll notice I use a remote collar with her. A remote collar is an electronic collar, but we use it on extremely low levels. You'll notice when I'm working with her, you won't see any kind of discomfort. You won't see any kind of, excessive jerking or anything like that. These collars now are extremely sophisticated, and we use them at very low levels in a way that allows us to communicate with the dog, and it allows us to get results in the training with the dog that we were never able to do in as quick a time and in as effective a time, let's say 15, 20 years ago. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just simply start to take Maggie through a couple of exercises. I want to first of all show you walking politely on leash. One of the things that I don't want my dog to do is pulling like wild, no? Okay. Another thing that I'll do is naturally sit when I give the command. Stay, down, come, all of these particular things. And we'll see how Maggie does in the a little bit of rainy weather. Good girl. Maggie, sit. Good girl. Maggie, heel. Good girl. Maggie, heel. Now basically the idea with this is that she follows me at my pace. I can go quick. I can go slow. Notice the leash, it's real loose. So what that communicates is the fact that she's willingly going with me. Maggie, sit. Stay. Stay. Sit. Good. Stay. Girl, Maggie, come. Good girl. Excellent. Sit. I use a treat now and then. Naturally, food is an important motivator for dogs, and it's entirely fine to use it in the context of training so long as you don't make the dog addicted to it. In other words, what I don't want is the dog... Sit, Maggie. Dog saying, like for example, if I were to call her, and if you had seen her go like this, where's the treat? Where's the treat? That's what I don't want. Okay? Wait. Down. Stay. I want her to be able to do it down at a distance. She's, able. Now she hasn't been here. She's only been here not even 2 weeks. And when she came in, she was, shall we say, unruly. Okay, she was unruly. But she's a very nice dog, very even temperament. She's not aggressive or anything like that. She's a little spirited, okay, and very, very energetic. Okay. Maggie, come. Go on, right here. Good. That's it. Now I'm just going to let the leash drop. And I want her to simply move with me. This is a command I call let's go. Let's go, Maggie. Good girl. Let's go. Good girl. What a good girl. Yes. Now, I can teach her not to jump by just simply using the off command. So when I animate her, good girl. Maggie, sit down. Wait. Good. Stay. Good girl. And you see her attention. She's just sort of wondering, okay, what's next? What's next? Okay. Good girl. Now I'm going to take the leash entirely off. Sit. Heel. Very good. Maggie. down, stay. Here. Good. Sit. Excellent. What a good girl. Stay. Down. Now another command that, because of the weather, I really wasn't able to stage that we do is a command we call place, where you have a place marker, a pallet or a rug or a dog bed, something like that, and the dog is taught to go to place on your command. It's a great, great command for home when, for example, the doorbell rings and previously the dog goes nuts, barking. You stay right there. She's got her eye on that golden over there. But I would also say she's got her eye on it, but she's a very playful dog. She's not, dog aggressive. But with place, what the dog does, it learns to go to the place and stay at the place until the dog is released, until, she's given free. And the neat thing about that command is, can you imagine this at your own home? Let's say the doorbell rings, and instead of your dog going bark, 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 and just going nuts and going up to the door and then just jumping at the door, and if the person comes in, mauling them with affection, or jumping or running the nylons, all of that, what would the scenario be like if you said, let's say the doorbell rings, the dog barks, and you say, "Good girl, Maggie, place." And Maggie goes right to place, stays there, looking at the door. You go to the door, you open the door, greet your guest, bring your guest in, sit your guest, get them settled in the living room, then go to Maggie and unleash, bring her up to your guests and in a very controlled way, introduce her to them. That's introducing a little sanity to modern life that often isn't there, and yet it's so simple once the dog learns the meaning of the place command. Like I said, I wasn't able to bring up a place marker right here, but were I to have done that, I would have had her on a sit right here, and I would have stood back and I would have simply said, "Maggie, place," and okay, down, down, and she would have gone to the place. She's sort of looking for where the place is, and I would have indicated it to her. It's a neat command, and it's one of the newer things that we're doing here at the monastery. Also, one last thing before I take some questions. I just want to, for many of you who may have heard that we're in the process of finishing a new training center, may have helped in the support and construction of that building. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to all of you. We're at a point now, we're deeply grateful for all of the support that we've received for this project. It's something that has touched us very, very deeply and has meant a real lot in our own life here. But as you can see, that green roofed building, that's the new training center. It's not quite done yet. The plumbers are still working, so there's no water in it yet, but everything else is for the most part done. And it's giving us a new home for the training program that's going to allow us to take the program into, let's say, the next 50 to 100 years here, where we'll be able to do the type of training that really is at a very, very high level. So That's just something new that has happened that we're deeply grateful for, and for all of you who have known about that and may have supported it. I just really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think all of us, actually, on behalf of the community. Now, stay, Maggie. Does anyone have any questions that I can, answer? Anything like that? Yes?
Yes. You have two commands. One is stay, and
Yes.
the other is wait.
Right.
Now,
What's the difference?
what is the difference?
Okay. He asked the difference between the two commands. Lie down. Maggie, down. No. Down. Stay. What is the difference between the two commands, wait and stay? Okay? In our way of doing it, the hand signal is pretty much the same. Wait is a pause. Stay is a more fixed command. So I would use wait, for example, at a stoplight or in front of a doorway. Do you ever have the situation where, you bring the dog to a sit in front of the doorway, you open the door, and then the dog bolts? Okay. What we teach here is a pause. We bring up the dog up to the doorway, sit, wait, open the door, and they're not allowed to begin until you give the command. In this case, it would be to heel. So that's the difference. Usually we'll use stay more for like a down stay, such as Maggie's in right now. I'd go stay, good girl, like that. Other questions? Yeah.
How often are you shocking the dog? And two,
First of all, I'm not shocking the dog.
I know you're just encouraging.
No, here's the thing. Seriously. He asked, how often am I shocking the dog?
It's fine.
Did you see any jumping or any signs of discomfort? Okay, it's a stim. Have you ever had a TENS unit? Anyone have a TENS unit? It's very much like that in physical therapy. At the level that I'm using, which is right now 10, I think I could put this in your hand and I don't think you'd be able to feel it. Now, to answer the question, when am I pressing the button? I'm pressing the button for the most part when I give the command, okay? Because since it's such a low level, I just simply would say, Maggie, heel, like this, and associate the stim with that. Then I would also use it if she made a mistake. Nope. Then I'd give her a little tap as a reminder. But I'm not doing it really, really all that frequently.
And how long will you continue to use it?
Okay, in terms of using it around the house, once a dog has gone back home, I basically encourage people to use the collar optimally for the first 3 months. The reason I do that is I don't want the dog to become collar-wise. What collar-wise is when the dog's wearing the collar, they're angelic. But you take the collar off and they sort of realize, I don't have to respond to you. By keeping the collar on optimally, that's, for example, whenever you're with the dog, accepting overnight sleeping and times when the dog is, for example, staying in a crate or something like that, the collar is on and the owner would have the remote. Then after 3 months, okay, then I would fade it inside, okay, because by then the dog is going to be really thoroughly trained and won't need indoors the benefit of the remote. Outside, my response to most people is this. I would have the remote collar on the dog, though I wouldn't necessarily be using it. I would use it more for an emergency, more for something that happened unexpectedly. Okay, for example, let's say you're walking in a nature trail and all of a sudden a deer jumps out of nowhere. Okay, Dogs are predators. Okay, so in order to be able to communicate with my dog, get my dog to come back to me quickly, that's a spontaneous thing. By having the remote collar, I can do that very, very easily without excessive discomfort to the dog. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it right, it's mostly used to kind of get the dog's
attention. It's a way of communicating. It's associating this, the command in the dog's mind. It's much more associative than it is aversive.
And if you're doing like a correction and say Maggie doesn't sit for you,
then I would at this point now I would say I might go nope and tap the.
So that's kind of when.
Yeah.
It's not really.
But like I said, the difference between the correction that I'm giving now and, for example, a sharp jerk on either a slip collar or a prong collar is quite different. Like I said, I think that the tap that you would feel with this would astonish you. You would go, what? Because it's barely perceptible at the level that I'm working. Barely perceptible. Yeah. Yes. It sure is. I've trained plenty of dogs that are older. Other questions? Great. Does anyone know what time it is? Great. Because the service is supposed to start at 3:30. So we're just about right. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate your attention and your questions.